Well, guys, welcome back to another video. I'm kind of trying to work through all the questions I get. Lately, one that keeps popping up is what kind of knife steel as a beginner should you look into if you're making your first knife or just kind of want to start messing around with knife making. I'm going to talk about that a little bit, and I'm also going to show one of my first knives that I made that I still have, and I haven't adjusted it at all. And this probably, I made it 5, 6, 7 years ago, something like that. And I still use it all the time. It works great. And that's kind of what I wanted to talk about. Okay. So a lot of people reach out and they say, hey, I'm just getting into knife making. Maybe I bought a little grinder, and what steel should I use for my first knife? Okay. And a lot of times I like to recommend what, a lot of people recommend, which is 01 tool steel. It heat treats really easy. If this is all my opinion, first of all, okay guys, this is all my personal opinion. It's not what the internet says. It's not what everybody, it's just my opinion. Okay. I've done it. I've used it and it works great. I actually have a knife here that I'll show you. That's one I made a long time ago out of 01 tool steel, and this was made out of 1/4 inch thick 01 tool steel. And I use and abuse this thing all the time. It's just got some G10 scales on it. Okay, this was heat treated in a single burner propane forge with canola oil. And I'll tell you what, I'd put this knife up against anything. It holds up good. The edge stays really, really sharp. And it's just a good cheap steel. Now, a lot of people, and even me when I first got into this, it was like you're trying to do everything almost for free. Like you're trying to maybe get some scrap steel, scrap handle material, because you're just doing it for fun. And I can't do that anymore, which is fine. But so when I first started, I had this railroad track, okay, that was down by my house. And laying alongside it was this pile, and I'm not sure, don't turn me in or anything, but they had these things, and I believe they're called railroad clips or railroad springs. There was a pile of rusty ones, and I took one home and did a little research on it, and turns out they make them out of spring steel. And whether it was 5160 or whatever kind of spring steel it was a hardenable steel. Because a lot of people want to make knives out of those railroad spikes, and those aren't high carbon steel. They won't harden. You can make a knife out of it, but it won't hold an edge. So, me not being super smart, I took one of those clips home with me, and hopefully you guys know what I'm talking about. I don't think I have any of them laying around anymore. Thank God I don't use them anymore, but they're just super thick, beefy springs, and I forged it all out by hand, single burner propane forge, and railroad track anvil. And I turned it into this knife right here, okay? So don't judge me on this knife, okay? This is way back in the day, but this was pretty much my first knife. And it's kind of a bird and trout design style. Like I said, it's made out of one of those railroad clips. You can see the handles have a bunch of gaps in them. And these handles are from hardwood floor scrap, hickory hardwood floor scrap, not stabilized. So I wanted to show this knife, and those pins are stainless, 1/4 inch stainless rod I had from something. So like I said, this knife is probably 5 or 6 years old. No, more than that probably. And just like my other one, I use this all the time, okay? Heat treated it in that forge with canola oil. The edge on this thing holds up great, okay? Really, really good. Super easy, super simple. I didn't have a clue what I was doing. And this is a good knife, okay? So no money invested in materials at all, okay? And so, if you look online, everybody will say, oh, go buy whatever steel, go buy this steel, go buy this steel. It's all opinions. If you guys don't want to put any money into it just to fool around, do something like that. Just have fun, use what you have. If you're not selling knives, if you're not, selling a lot of knives, you don't need to worry about if they are, super high performance. Just make a knife and get a feel for how it goes. Then maybe if you like it, start investing in some steel, okay? So one of the first, I bought a bunch of 01 tool steel off the beginning, and I used a lot of that, and it works great. Like I said, it heat treats really easy in a forge with canola oil. And I'm not gonna give you guys any of the temperatures or anything in this video because it's all super opinionated on how people heat treat stuff. with all the steel I do now, it's all heat treated off of New Jersey Steel Baron's website specs, okay? Because that's where I get all my steel pretty much. So I go right off of that and I get super good results, okay? Another really cool thing to look into if you guys are just getting into this is there's a book that came out a couple years ago, and I believe it's called Knife Making Engineering or Knife Engineering, something like that, by a guy named Laren Thomas, I believe is his name. And I'm going to put a link below for that book because he goes into so much detail on every aspect of every different steel, how to heat treat it, its uses, just so much information in that book that if you're wanting to get into this and learn, I definitely would pick that up because it's super helpful. So now that I've been doing this full time, I have to produce a knife that I am 100% confident in, okay? And that's, I can't sell a knife that I'm guessing on how hard it is or how it's gonna hold up. They all have to be right on the money. So that's why I do everything with an even heat kiln. I use Parks 50 oil for what I do, which is all an investment. Like I'm saying, it's all an investment. And if you guys are watching this and you're just starting, you don't need to make that investment. You know, you can even make a forge however you want to, do whatever you want to do until you start producing knives that you're going to sell and kind of stand behind and put your name on them. Do whatever you want to do and make them however you want to make them. But now I use a lot of 1095. I really love using 1095. The heat treat for it, you can heat treat it in a forge, but I think, and you can heat treat it with canola oil too, but it really likes a fast quench, and that Parks 50 suits it better. So I guess as you progress, you know, try out different knife steels and see what works for your setup. You know, test them, do a lot of snap testing, check the grain, check everything, and just use them and see what performs. And, you know, don't always just go online and search for what somebody says is bad and good, because, you know, if you look up right now, if you go to Google and you type in, is O1 tool steel a good beginner tool steel or a good beginner knife steel? You know, a lot of people will say, don't do it. Oh my gosh, it's horrible. And it's like, I know firsthand, plus I know a lot of people firsthand that have made knives out of them and they just hold up great. It's super easy to work with, and that's all there is to it. So use what you have, make it happen. You know, start picking up, check out New Jersey Steel Baron's website. Steel prices are going up right now for, you know, whatever reasons. I'm not going to get into that, but, you know, so price that a little bit. You can buy, you know, chunks of steel, you know, enough to make 3, 4, 5 knives for $25 to $30. So the investment, super small if you want to stick with known steel, because like I said, I did a little research on this and they say it's 5160. I have no clue if that's what it is. But hey, it's made a good knife. I learned a lot. And that's kind of what it's all about. So that's what I wanted to explain and talk about in today's video. If you guys have any ideas for future videos, drop it in the comments or shoot me a message over on Instagram at Gentry Custom Knives. That's pretty much all I do on this channel, is try to kind of share what I've learned throughout this whole process of knife making into becoming a full-time knife maker. And hopefully I help some people out a little bit along the way. I don't know. It seems like some people are watching these, so it must help a little bit. I don't know. So anyways, guys, have a good one. I'm going to get back to it. I've got a bunch of orders to work on this week. If you guys didn't see, I did that camp knife last week and a big batch of Trekker H's. So I've got a bunch of knives to work with. Here's some really cool micarta that I got going on. A little everyday carry cleaver that I do. So I'm going to get that finished up today and call it a day. So have a good one, guys. Thanks for watching.